Poor girl was trapped in the freezer for several hours. She continuously rubbed her body to prevent freezing. She reached into her pocket for warmth and suddenly felt something. It was an expired movie ticket. The girl seemed to have an idea. She checked the time on her wristwatch and quickly found a tray on the shelf. She rushed to the freezer door, keeping a close eye on her watch. Soon, the last movie at the nearby cinema ended. People poured out. The girl still stared at her watch. At 0:35, without hesitation, she picked up the tray and started tapping the freezer door. However, due to the distance and the cacophony of people talking outside, no one heard the noise. Time ticked away, and the girl began to lose hope. But at that very moment, a young boy noticed.
अंडे से कुछ आवाज आ रही है.
The boy's father rushed over, but by then, the girl was already exhausted and had stopped banging on the door. The boy's father didn't see anything unusual. He left the mall with his son. Poor girl was trapped in the freezer for several hours. Her body suffered from frostbite. Her nose continuously bled. Desperate to stay warm, the girl rummaged through her bag, tearing her shirt into strips to wrap around her hands and feet. She then used some tape to make makeshift gloves and socks. Even with these makeshift measures, the cold inside the freezer remained intolerable, giving her goosebumps all over her body. At her wit's end, the girl noticed the rapidly spinning cold air machine and came up with a bold idea. She moved a cardboard box and tore it into pieces, using tape to fashion them into squares. Carefully, she climbed a ladder and affixed the cardboard around the freezer's perimeter. However, she underestimated the power of the cold air machine. As she was about to block the second vent, the previous cardboard square was blown down. In frustration, the girl had to reattach it, but this time the cardboard unexpectedly struck back. She instinctively grabbed a nearby shelf, but it collapsed. Before she could assess her injuries, the falling shelf struck her right foot. The girl unwrapped her bandage and discovered her entire foot was bent and misshapen. She understood she needed to set her own bones. Otherwise, she would undoubtedly end up with a lifelong disability. The girl placed her foot between two shelves. Then, she picked up the cardboard to seal the gaps, securing her foot in place. Next, she took a deep breath and abruptly twisted it to the side. With a resounding crack, her foot was forcibly realigned. The excruciating pain left her trembling uncontrollably. However, this wasn't the time to rest. She needed to immobilize the fractured bone promptly. Being trapped in a freezer at -16 degrees, losing her mobility would be a dire predicament. So, the girl reinforced a wooden stick with tape and firmly fastened it on both sides of her ankle. After gingerly testing it with a step on the ground, she managed to stand upright. Now the girl was famished. She approached the nearby shelf, hoping to find something to eat. Unfortunately, aside from some frozen fries, there was nothing edible. She contemplated trying to consume them but nearly chipped a tooth. With no other option, she huddled in a corner, conserving her energy as best as she could. Out of the blue, she spotted a crack in the wall. A mouse was darting in and out of it. Acting on impulse, she reached for a box, opened it, and discovered a biscuit inside. She even broke off a piece and tossed it to the mouse in the corner. Poor girl was trapped in the freezer for several hours. She tried to climb out of the box, but her arm suddenly throbbed with intense pain. It was then that the girl realized her arm was stuck firmly, leaving her unable to move. She clenched her teeth and, with a tearing sound, ripped it off, skin and all. Afterward, she struggled to crawl out of the opening and discovered the mouse from earlier had frozen to death. Staring at the lifeless creature, the girl sank into a profound sense of despair. Perhaps, she thought, this would be her fate too. Watching the rapidly spinning fan, the girl reckoned death was inevitable, so she decided to make one last attempt. She fetched some plastic wrap and tightly covered every inch of her skin, minimizing heat loss. Then, she grabbed a piece of frozen meat and hurled it with all her might. The meat lodged perfectly in the fan blades, blocking them. However, her stroke of luck didn't last. When the next fan started, despite her best efforts, she couldn't save herself. Fatigue caught up with her during her next attempt, causing her to collapse, consciousness fading away. Right at that moment, the door suddenly swung open, and her father rushed in with others. She was saved,